Today we're doing a service on my Harley CVO Road King. We've got a ride on Sunday, so I've got to go and service it. So we're going to have an attempt at trying to do it myself, which I've done one ages ago, but it was on an older bike. So we went to the shop, got ourselves a silver filter because your filter's on show, so may as well get the chrome on. We've got some thread sealant to put on the plug for when we put the drain plug back in. We've also got an O-ring as well, which the O-ring I've got in the box as well. The oil we're using today is the Penrite HPR 30. Now, I've been told that it's 4 quarts to fill the tank. So we'll just put, which it works out to be 3 litres and 3.75 litres. So what we'll do is we'll just put 3.5 litres in it, and then after that we'll check the dipstick, see where it is, and then we'll just adjust it from there. But anyway, I'll grab all this stuff, we'll head outside, we'll drag the bike out, and then we'll start having a look at where the drain plug is, where the filler point is, where the oil, and all the good stuff. But until then, let's go outside. All right, now we got the bike out. We're going to get underneath it. We're going to remove the screw out of the sump, drain it all, and then have a look at putting the filter in. So we'll jump under here. Now, I've already put a socket where the sump is. So, get in there. Under this one. I've got it, if this wants to work. I think my thing's stuffed, but there we go. After a bit of struggling, we finally got it undone. Let's drag the container. I've just got an old container from the kitchen that I don't use anymore. It's actually not looking too bad. So while that drains, I'll just pop this out, just let it breathe. There you go, now it's pouring out. So technically, you should have about 3.75 litres come out to know if it's lost any oil or if it's burned any oil or so forth. And so far it's hit the litre mark. It's a lot harder working off the ground. I'm going to have to get myself a lift at some stage, but there we go, it's coming up to a 1.5 litre mark now. Anyway, I'll speed this process up so it doesn't take forever, because it's slowing out it's pretty slow, but starting to slow up a little bit, so might be burning a little bit of oil, but we'll see. Well, then it does have a slight leak in the front, which I'm going to actually put some degreaser in it, because it looks like it's coming from the old air filter. But grab ourselves a rag. Clean this nut. Didn't even really plan this well. So we'll clean this off. We'll put some Loctite back on this. So we usually just run a little bit of Loctite around there, or looks like they have. So that's why I got the thread sealant. And there's a little O-ring in there, which it doesn't look too bad. But we'll change that anyway, because we've already brought the O-ring, and if we're doing a service on it, we may as well change it, because it's just good practice to do whatever you've got with it. Clean up this thread a little bit. It's not real big, because I'm guessing that's a little magnet on the front of it, which is not really much build up on it. No, not really. So that's always a good sign if you've got no friggin' metal hanging off your sump plug. But anyway, that's still dripping a fair bit. Right, how many litres are we up to now? Just over 2 litres. There we go, it's leaking again now. So, with this, I've seen other people, they put a bit of cardboard or plastic under it to stop all the oil dripping down throughout the bike. But we're going to degrease it anyway. We have to, because there's oil there, so we might just unscrew it. We'll have the rag underneath it. And get this oil filter out. Alright. Now, see, that's why we had the oil leak. It was barely even friggin' tight. So, that's a good thing though, because at least it's not a bigger problem then. Better than it leaking somewhere worse, I suppose. Yeah, anyway. Might actually tip this out and see how the oil is. But anyway, a little bit on the ground there, a little bit up in the sensors. We'll degrease all that anyway, but till then we'll swap over to the other camera. Actually no, we'll go and grab the filter. Alright, we got the other filter, which it's always common practice to oil up the new seal. In she goes. It's about as tight as I can get it done with my hands. I used to have a socket that you could put on the end of it and kind of tighten it, but that's pretty tight. But we'll fill her up with oil, we'll go for a ride later, we'll come home and we'll check that's still tight. But now we'll go over to the oil and top up the oil. Well, we've got to put the bung back in first, but we'll put the bung back in, put all that seal and everything over it, and go from there. Alright, now got this rubber O-ring off, if I can. I just cut my nails, so it's a lot harder to get it off without something to pry it off. Put the new one on. A little bit of thread locker. Oh, you've got to cut it. I don't even know if I've got any cutters here. I'll be back in a minute. Alright, got some snips and some cutters. I'm going to put a real thin layer on it. Because I've always heard with thread locker, a little bit goes a long way. Let's put that theory to the test, huh? Put that back on. We'll save that for next time. Now, which one was the... That's not it. That's the hardest bit. You always forget which one it was. That's why you always just keep one tool out. That's enough to get it started anyway, and then we'll find the correct one after that. Alright, back under we go. Clean that up. That should be enough. If I can get the tool out of it. There we go. Alright, oil filter's done, some plugs back in. Now for some oil. So, we need to think of a funnel. What are we going to do about a funnel? Anyway, we'll go and try and find a funnel, make life a lot easier. Alright, went through my shed, found my funnel I forgot I brought. So whack that in there. Doesn't even fit properly, but oh no, it does. So now, it was saying 3.75 litres, but I'll put a little bit less in just to kind of go off that, and then I can just adjust it later on. Alright, set it down and have a look. Definitely a 5 litre, yep. So, we've almost put 2 litres in. Set it down, 2.5 litres. Almost. We'll call it. Alright, that's about 3.5 litres, so we'll call that good. Alright, whack the dippy back in. You're meant to warm up this oil before you check it, but in this case we'll just give a rough estimate guess. Alright, saying there's a little bit too much in there, but once you start it and get it pumped through the system and stuff, you'll find it will drop a little bit. So now, no leaks. Only the residual leaking out of there. Alright, let's kick her in the guts. been running for about 5 minutes. So let's give the dipstick a friggin' quick look over. See how much oil we got in it now. Level full on the jiffy stand. It is perfectly on the full. So 3.5 litres worked out well, because when you think about it, you drop 3.5, well, I dropped about 3 litres, so that means we lost 500 mils, but you can never get it out of the engine completely. So you're always going to have some in the channels, in the galleries, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I always go 3.5 litres, which we done 3.5 litres, or just a little bit under 3.5 litres. But then you can always add more, but then you've got to take out the sun plug and bleed it all if you put too much in. So that's why I've went with less, to know, like, because I went with the 3.5 because I know that without that 0.25 litres, it was still going to be on the full marker, but except you just had to add a little bit more. But that turned out perfect, so I put it all in there, I started it up, and now it's perfectly on the full line mark. So that's why I've done it that way. But anyway, we'll go clean all this stuff up. I might actually take it for a quick spin, take it for a ride around the block, and then we'll come back and then let it set and settle for a bit, and then we'll check the dipstick again. But anyway, I'll take it for a ride now, but that's going to be the end of the video now. So comment on how you actually service your bike, if you do service the bike, or who you get to service your bike. But it turned out with the O-ring, the filter, the oil, and the thread locker, it was $113 all together with just that. But anyway, like I said before, throw down in the comments if you service your bike yourself, or who you get to service it, and how much you usually get charged for a service. And until then, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.